What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Live Better Now podcast. I got a special guest for you guys. Today, my guest is Dr. Rachele Pojednic. She's an associate professor and program director of exercise science in Norwich University's Health and Human Performance Department and a research associate at the Institute of Lifestyle Medicine at Harvard Medical School. Now, I got connected with Dr. Pojednic because, as you guys saw, my recent episode with Joe DeSena, the CEO and founder of Spartan, he invited me to the summer death race here in June of 2023. And obviously, I couldn't say no. He asked me if I wanted redemption from my recent Ironman in Barcelona, where I missed the cutoff by 6 minutes. I said, absolutely. How am I going to get redemption? And that's when he put the invite on the table. And he connected me with Dr. Pojednic because the beginning of my death race is going to be a 2-day intensive, I'm going to call it military boot camp. I don't know much about it, but Norwich is a military college, and this 2-day boot camp is the start of my death race. I'm super excited, so I had to have Dr. Pojednic on the podcast to ask her some questions, talk a little bit about exercise and nutrition, and just really looking forward to death race. Dr. Pojednic, how you doing today?
I'm so great. Thanks so much for having me. Psyched to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on the podcast today. Tell us a little bit about what you do. Tell us a little bit more about your credentials, some of your research, and I guess we'll start from there.
Yeah, so I really operate both in the academic space, in the nutrition and exercise world, as well as in the fitness and wellness space. I like to think of my life as a series of Venn diagrams. So I started in the fitness and wellness space way back. I was 18 years old, just a personal trainer back in the day, really excited. I was an athlete. And then it really has evolved through teaching science to middle schoolers, going back to school and getting a degree in nutritional biochemistry with a specialization in exercise physiology. So really trying to understand how nutrition affects exercise and vice versa. And for a while, I was looking at how to prevent chronic diseases. So diseases like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, sarcopenia. So the tissue that I really care about is muscle. And that led me to Norwich University, which is, as you mentioned, a senior military college. So we are training the majority of our students to become what we call tactical athletes. So this could be a warfighter, so soldier, sailor, Marine, Guardian. And then we also have a significant amount of our students that go on to the alphabet agencies. So FBI, CIA, civil service, and then they go to firefighting and police. And so along that way, I really started working with this tactical population to help enhance performance, recovery. And that's really where I live now, is utilizing these very accessible modalities. So everybody eats, everybody has the opportunity to exercise. And it's funny because, again, this series of Venn diagrams, when you look at human performance optimization in warfighters, it's all the same pathways as it is for, I will call us amateur athletes on the back end, right? Or even just people trying to perform best at work. When you look at these pathways, how can you optimize is going to be pretty much the same across populations. You have to take a little bit more intention with some populations than others, but that's really where I land now, is how can we take this information, give it to normal average humans like you and me, and then also to people that, you know, really need their bodies and their minds to be optimized in order to do their job, and in some cases survive through their job.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I think I would, if I had to guess, the analytics on Spotify and Apple of my audience aren't super specific. But if I had to guess, I would say 9 out of 10 of the people that are listening are not endurance athletes, are not ultra marathoners, are not Ironmen, and are not trying to do a Spartan Ultra. But they do want to live a healthier life, and they do want to perform better in their work, and they do want to live longer, and they do want to prevent chronic illnesses and disease. So my first question for you, is there some sort of test that they can do this weekend to see how good of shape they're in? Whether it's how many, can you do 100 push-ups within 5 minutes? Can you run a mile without stopping? Is there any tests that they can do to see their fitness level at the moment?
Yeah, so there are two that are really accessible to the average human. One is going to test aerobic endurance, and then the other is going to test strength or strength endurance. So the first one is, we would call it the YMCA step test. You can go and find this on the Googles. And basically what you're going to do is step for a series of times, up and down, and you take your heart rate before and after. And there are norms that you can compare yourself to. So it sort of gives you, based upon your resting heart rate and then the heart rate that you get to, whether or not you're in fair, poor, good, excellent shape. That's one that's really accessible to every average human. And I will say that's a test that we use pretty regularly in the field for research, because it's really hard to test aerobic capacity unless you're in, a physiology lab, which we also do. But this is one that we can use out in the field. The other is really interesting, and this doesn't really have like fantastic norms yet. But there was a really terrific study that was done about 5 or 6 years ago on firefighters. And what they found was that if they could do a certain amount of push-ups, then later on in life, they had significantly less risk for diseases like cardiovascular disease, which hits the firefighter population at, interestingly, an exponentially higher rate than it does even the average population. And we know cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of all humans on the planet. So non-communicable disease. And so there are norms as well. And I can send you this if you want to put it in the links, or we can sort of send it out. But essentially, if you can do more than about 25 to 30 push-ups in a row, you're in pretty good shape.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So the two tests, the YMCA test to test our heart rate, and then if you can do 25 to 30 push-ups in a row. Well,
yep.
If I could share my screen right now, which I'm not going to, but if I could, I would show you my habit tracker. And one of the things on my habit tracker when it comes to my health category is doing 100 push-ups a day. And I do this without fail, usually before like 9 a.m. Now, I just want to get a little bit of advice from you. Is that excessive? Like some days when I am sore, I still do the 100 push-ups just because I'm trying to build that discipline. But is that a little aggressive? What are your thoughts on that?
Do you do them all in a row?
No, I do them like either in 3 or 4 sets. I'll do like 40 the first time, 25, and then like 25, 35, whatever the next time. Or I'll do it in the sauna. I'll do like a 20-minute sauna session. Then every minute I'll do 10, something like that. So, well, I don't know. Just some feedback for me real quick.
Yeah, totally. So 2 things that come up is, first, no, not excessive. So if you can do 3 by 30 push-ups, like that's actually, that's pretty optimal. So I would say that, you're definitely on the higher end of health metrics, which is pretty awesome. And that's where we want to be, right? Like, especially at your moment in life with your age, like if you can have that, maximize it now, and then sort of try and maintain that as well as you can throughout your lifespan, you're in really good shape. The other thing that I'm thinking about with your sauna push-ups is one of the things that we know specifically about exercise, and you've talked about this on your podcast, is it is, as is sauna, an acute stressor on your body, right? And that's one of the most important things that we are finding. And this kind of goes back to Joe and all of the things that he talks about with Spartan, is that acute stressors, not long-term stress, right? So there's different types of stress that we want to be careful about. There are stressors that are going to really negatively affect your body, long-term stresses, environmental stresses, anxiety, depression, those kinds of things. We want to avoid that. However, if we use things like exercise, and I'm intrigued about exercise in the sauna, I think all of the hot yogis would be really interested in that outcome, is the idea that if you can give your body and your mind acute, so short-term amounts of stress, that actually helps to increase health span over your lifetime. So when you think about lifespan versus health span, the average human is going to live somewhere between 85 and 105 years old. And the biohackers are trying to like push that envelope a little bit, right? But really what we want to do with health span is to keep you as vibrant and, living your day-to-day life as possible until the day you die. I like to think about it as, I don't play tennis, but I want to go play a game of tennis, have a glass of wine, and go to bed and not wake up, right? Like that's kind of like, I want to be feeling joy and going and doing my thing until literally the moment that I can't do it anymore. And so that, when we think about these acute stressors, and there's a lot of data that's starting to come out about this. When we were looking at muscle, I mentioned my tissue is muscle. what we find is that muscle is a tissue that likes to have a little bit of inflammation, but just a little. You mentioned soreness, right? So just a little, we want to stress it out. That's how we make it stronger. That's how we make it more robust. And this, as it turns out, is something that applies to all tissues in your body. A little bit of stress that you can control is going to be really helpful for you long term. So I don't have any good data to say, do push-ups in the sauna work better than push-ups in your living room? But I can tell you that a little bit of that added stress might be helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. And I want you to be completely honest with me, and I don't want you to hold back. And I know you'll do that because you're that type of person. But I feel like I do the push-ups in the sauna because I like to stack my habits. And if I'm sitting in the sauna for 20 minutes, I either want to be meditating or I want to be listening to a good audiobook or podcast, or I want to be banging out some push-ups. So, sometimes I do 3 of those things where I'm doing my 20 minutes sauna, I'm doing push-ups, and I'm listening to a good audiobook or podcast. So all about just like optimizing my time and creating more time, being efficient, things like that. I don't think, I definitely don't do push-ups in the sauna just because I think they're better in the sauna. It's kind of just a good time for me to do it because I can't sit still. But my next question, my next topic that I kind of want to pivot to is about nutrition, because there's a plethora of information out there and a lot of stuff contradict other things. And as more and more people have a platform and more people tweet and have podcasts and write books, which is very, very easy now, I feel like we get overwhelmed. And I myself get overwhelmed as well. I try intermittent fasting, then I go to not fasting, then I try just, doing a Whole30, or I try vegetarian, and then I'm like, oh no, just fruit and meat. And like try to come up what works best for me. And obviously it depends like if I'm training or am I not training. Right now, I'm in week 2 of a 16-week training block for Ironman Cozumel. And, I'm burning 2,500 calories a day for sure. Yesterday I was on the bike for over an hour. The day before that, I ran 4 miles and swam 1,500 yards. And, it's been even though it's only week 2, I know it's only going to ramp up. And so I'm trying to figure out what works best for me. But what works best for me might not work best for Dr. Pojednic. What works best for you might not work best for, James over there. So I want to get your answer and I want to get your perspective on like, if there is a protocol for the human being, or is it really just specific to that person, their biology, their physiology, their activity level, so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's such a good and important question. And as this field of precision nutrition starts to really evolve, this is a question that, the researchers are asking, individual humans are asking, biohackers have been sort of at the leading edge of this for a long period of time. I will tell you this, there are common threads among everything that you just talked about that are really important for every human being. When we look at the full plethora of data that we have, how you apply those threads are going to be different depending on whether or not you are training for 2-3 hours a day or you are at your desk on a Tuesday afternoon editing a podcast, right? So those are going to be really different applications, but the threads remain the same. I'll tell you what the threads are. It's fairly simple. If we were to choose and fill your plate, what you want to be thinking about are fruits, vegetables, meats that have a significant amount of unsaturated fat. So these tend to be fish, because the unsaturated fat specifically we know to be a potent antioxidant, anti-inflammatory that your body knows what to do with. Adding in things like spices and, these places where we tend to spend a ton of money on supplements, we can get these from the food system. Hydration is going to be key. And if you can sort of nail all of those things, you're going to be getting the right amount of carbohydrate, both complex carbohydrates, starches, and fibers, which are really important. You're going to be getting the right amount of protein. You're going to be getting the right amount and the right type of fat. And you're also going to be hydrated. We know that dehydration can be really impactful for performance. So if you can nail that most of the time, you're going to be in really good shape. Again, there are ways that we would strategize for somebody that is training hard, for somebody that is sedentary most of the week, but works really hard on the weekends, for somebody that is has a hard time exercising at all. There are ways that we would strategize this based upon calorie intake, and you mentioned I'm burning 2,500 calories a day. That's just in exercise, right? That's not including your, basal needs of like what your body needs to recover, what your brain needs in order to function appropriately. And so I think this is where the nuance and the precision really starts to become important. And in that case, if you can hit these main threads, so fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, lean, unsaturated fat type of proteins, hydration, in that case, you're 90% of the way there. That last 10% is really going to depend on you, your activity, and then potentially also some genetics.
Right. Okay. Good answer. It seems very elementary and very basic. And I like to keep, even though I know your knowledge and your experience and your research can go so in depth. I just don't think this audience is the type of people that want to know a lot about the science, and it's great. I'm very interested in the science. I really am. I love learning about physiology and biohacking and the central nervous system and how we can operate as efficiently and as optimally as possible. But I like to keep a lot of these conversations simple and applicable, right?
Yeah.
So, what can these people be doing? Taking those 2 tests. Can you do 30 push-ups? Do the YMCA test. How's your heart rate? Making sure you're eating fruits and veggies, making sure you're eating a protein that have unsaturated fat, nuts, seeds, leafy greens. But I wanted to touch on the supplements real quick because I'm someone who goes back and forth of, should I be taking supplements? Should I not be taking supplements? I still do strength training. I like to lift weights often and obviously do push-ups and things like that. And typically over the last, 15 to 20 years of my strength training journey, it's like, oh, you got to drink protein shake 15 minutes after a workout. And I've been doing that, here and there, but I've realized that protein kind of makes me feel bloated. And after I drink a protein shake, I get kind of lethargic and, my stomach kind of hurts. So I don't think protein really mixes well with me. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me make sure I get my protein from food and things like that. But to take that one step further, and I'm going to get to the question I promised, is like, what supplements should I be taking? So I'm like, all right, what are the most important supplements? I do a lot of research. All right, seems like fish oil, omega-3s, like those type of fats, they're good for the joints, they're good for brain health, they're good for skin and nails. That seems like a pretty good one. And then I hear magnesium. Our body doesn't really produce a lot of magnesium, and magnesium is good to get high quality sleep. So take before you go to sleep. And then I hear about L-theanine, and I'm like, okay, wait a second. Who do I know that knows the most about this? Oh, Andrew Huberman, right? Stanford, right? So let me listen to Huberman Lab. I'm listening to Huberman Lab, and every 30 seconds I hear, buy this supplement, Momentous this, AG1 this. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, AG1 is definitely paying this guy, a couple 7 figures to be talking about this. And I guarantee you Momentous is definitely paying him a couple 7 figures to do this. And that bed he talks about that he brings with him when he travels, that I'm calling bullshit on that, right? So I'm like, and he has, I don't know the exact analytics. He definitely has 20 million people that probably listen to every episode. They don't publicize. It's not disclosed how many listeners he has. But there's 35 million people that listen to podcasts on Spotify. He's the number one. There's 30 million people that listen on Apple. He's number one. So I'm like, all right, what should I be doing? And supplementation, I promise I'm getting to the question. Supplementation is something that you don't see an immediate effect. For example, if I go on the bike, my legs feel pumped. They feel swollen. I'm on the bike for 2 hours and man, I'm feeling good and strong. But taking fish oil for a week, I don't really see a difference. And this stuff is expensive. So can you elaborate a little bit on your perspective and your opinion on supplements and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing that you just mentioned that's really important is we do get a lot of information, a lot of paid information from sources, even really highly trained and reputable sources. The one thing that I would just say about listening to different podcasts is a person can't be an expert in everything, right? And this is why they bring in the experts. So my suggestion, and this is just a blank, not to necessarily respond to a specific podcaster or not, is to listen to the advice of the experts that they bring in rather than the practices necessarily that they engage in or the products that they're pushing. Because at the end of the day, there's potentially an ulterior motive there, to your point. When we think about supplementation, there actually are sort of 3 different reasons why you would supplement. One is essentially to add something to your diet that you might not be getting. So for example, if you're a vegan, you are not intaking enough B12. There's just no way to get it from plant foods. So supplementing is critical, right? If you are a person that lives in the cold weather climates, Northeast, you are not making vitamin D in your skin in the wintertime. It's impossible to do. So taking a vitamin D supplement is a really good idea. If you just have, you're a small person like me and you just don't have a ton of intake of food, you might want to think about a multivitamin, right? Where it's just like, I know some days I'm not getting enough of one thing, so I just top everything off with a multivitamin during the day. So that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is what you were talking about, where we're taking a supplement to enhance something right now. And there are certain supplements that can do that, right? So you can take a supplement and feel something right away. A lot of the herbals will act this way, where you take something and you feel better in, several hours to 24 to 48 hours, right? And there's a decent amount of supplementation research that shows that is the case, although those are potentially lacking. The last, and this is where you're talking about with something like omega-3s, where you're like, I don't feel any different. You'll feel different at age 84 if you take these supplements.
Okay.
And this is something that's really hard in the nutrition space, where everything is a soundbite, everything is 30 seconds, everything is, I want to feel better right now. We really don't give enough credit to the longevity piece. Remember, longevity is not, can I live to 120? It's, can I live to 120 well? And so when we look at a supplement like omega-3s, what we see, those are beneficial for brain health, to make sure that we don't have neurodegeneration. Okay, when does neurodegeneration happen? It starts to happen at age 65, 70, 75. So if you're consistent with your omega-3s during your lifespan, those are the times when you're going to hopefully not notice declines in performance. Things like omega-3s are really important for cardiovascular health. When do you develop cardiovascular issues, atherosclerosis, have a heart attack? 65, 70, 75. So you have to think about these things where, yes, you want to feel better right now, and there's certainly some supplements that can help with that and performance in this moment. And there are also things that you want to think about making sure that you have on board for your whole life, so that your 85-year-old self will thank your 40-year-old self right now for thinking about them, in the proactive sense.
Got it. Okay. So I want to get a quick opinion from you on what I should be doing. This is not for the audience, even though they're going to listen to this. I want to know what I should be doing. So based on what you just said, I feel like I should start taking fish oil omega-3s again.
Good idea.
Okay. And then
especially if you don't eat a lot of fish, which people tend to not eat enough. So yes, I would say great idea.
Okay. So do you have a brand that you recommend?
I don't. The one thing that I do say is you want to make sure that there's just a really solid third-party testing. So I work with a lot of athletes, and the supplement industry is very unregulated from a testing perspective. And so there can be a lot of contaminants that end up in products. So I would say don't buy the really cheap stuff, just because there's, potential risk there. However, be really careful about the very expensive labeled stuff too, because if they're not third-party testing, like if you get an Instagram ad that comes across and they're like, we're going to personalize this supplement just for you, and you're paying $100 a bottle and there's no third-party testing, you don't really know what's in there. Anybody can call a formulator and become a supplement provider, guru, whatever. So be careful. Third-party testing is what you want to be looking for.
And then magnesium, should I be taking magnesium?
Magnesium is an interesting one. So if you take a multivitamin, you should be getting enough magnesium in your day. There are specific molecules of magnesium that can be helpful for things like sleep, cardiovascular health, and each one comes with its own little buddy. It can come with an amino acid. It can come with another mineral. It's certainly not going to hurt you, although I will tell you this, with supplements, you want to be very careful, because we live in a society where we feel if a little is good, a lot is better. And in supplements specifically, they tend to be supraphysiologic doses, meaning they're in amounts that your body doesn't really know what to do with. So 100% of your daily value is going to be great. So if you look at your multivitamin and you've got 100% of your magnesium in your multivitamin, you're good to go. The other thing that I would caution you with magnesium specifically is that several of them are used as a laxative, like they specifically are going to have a laxative effect. So if you think of milk of magnesia, yep. So be careful when you're choosing the magnesium supplements. Read the back label and make sure you're not choosing the laxative version.
Okay. So omega-3s, got the feedback on magnesium. I'll make a decision on the magnesium. Is there anything else that you think is essential?
So if you're thinking about performance, we think, protein is always going to be critical. So making sure that you're getting enough of that protein, even if the shakes make your stomach feel, a little queasy, choose another product.
Okay.
We do know that getting enough protein, which is about 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, give or take. So the recommendation for the average human is 0.8. We're seeming to think that that's not quite enough. Up to about 2.2 is where you're going to see performance benefits. So 2 grams per kilo per day, I tend to think of as average, for the athletic human. And there are other products. So it might be if you're taking a whey protein or a whey isolate, that can be a little bit irritating. So if you look at products that are protein, make sure that you're getting a full complement of the amino acids, particularly the essential amino acids. There are 9. You can get, plant proteins, you can get pea proteins, you can get others that are going to be helpful. Collagen is not a complete protein, so be careful about that one. There's very limited data on whether or not collagen is helpful for recovery.
Interesting.
So you want to be looking for that full complement of amino acids.
Okay. All right. Omega-3s and protein for sure. And I'm going to make a decision on the magnesium. Yep. All right. So there's two more things I just want to talk about because I know you're busy and I really appreciate your time. So on June 28th, I'm flying to Vermont and I'm going to be going through it.
Lucky. You're very lucky.
I am. I feel very grateful and appreciative that Joe put this offer on the table because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And getting the invite from the CEO and founder of Spartan himself is something that I could not have said no to, and I do not want to say no. And I'm going to be bringing a couple buddies of mine that have done ultra Spartan races and Ironmans and things like that. So we're going to have a good team and a good crew and a lot of support around each other and accountability, which is going to help all of us get through this treacherous is the word I'm going to use experience. But can you fill me in a little bit about this? I'm going to call it a 2-day military boot camp that I'm going to be going through. What should I be expecting?
Yeah, so we are calling this MIRTAC. So this is a collaboration between Norwich University, Senior Military College, and Spartan. We are also super thrilled about it. So MIRTAC, everything in the military has an acronym, everything. So this one stands for Military Resilience and Tactical Athlete Course, MIRTAC. And so what this is a real combination of some of the physical training that we do with our warfighters, with our special operators. So if you come to Norwich, you'll know that we have our own mountain. It's called, fittingly so, Pain Mountain, named after a human, but there it is. And so we're going to be camping out on Pain Mountain. You're going to be eating MREs, which are the nutrition that we give to our warfighters because they can pack it and put it, they can carry it with them. So you're getting an experience of that. And then we're going to put you in the classroom and we're going to have you working with, so alternating this physical training, we're going to have you working with the professionals that work and help the people, the tactical athletes that need human performance optimization for their job. So this is going to apply to sports athletes. But really we take this super seriously because if somebody doesn't do these things, especially if they're out, wherever they're going to be stationed in the world, it's really important that they understand how to do this so that they come home. So there's a really serious element of this as well. And so you're going to be learning from our best experts on nutrition, on sleep, on stress and resilience. You're going to be learning from one of the premier strength and conditioning coaches in the country. So Scott Caulfield is our strength and conditioning coach. He's amazing. He's been working with tactical athletes and elite level athletes for the whole time. You're going to be hearing from our wrestling coach, Alex Whitney, who is really good friends with Joe, to think about how to optimize your emotional resilience and when you're in a situation and you are feeling super stressed out and there are a million things going on around you, how can you become really internalized, really focused so that you're not distracted? So we're really taking this across the board. You're going to be experiencing the physical elements of what it means to be a tactical athlete, as well as really learning what the knowledge that you need to have and the experiential components that you need to have to perform at the highest level when it matters most.
Okay, amazing. All right, great. Awesome. Thank you so much for all the info. I'm super excited to take on the death race and take on Murtac and Pain Mountain. I love getting out of my comfort zone. I started to recently take leaps of faith on different experiences. And when I started my Ironman journey back in 2020, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And it led to so many other amazing opportunities. And I just want to say for all the people out there, I want to thank everyone that listens to the podcast, because the numbers are consistently going up. We've reached over 610 Spotify followers, which is amazing. We're about to cross 75,000 streams. We're currently at 76 reviews on Apple Podcasts. Let's see if we can get that up to 100 by the end of May. And the podcast has been a great platform for me to connect with amazing individuals, including yourself, Dr. Pojednic, Joe DeSena, other New York Times bestselling authors, and people that are just living life to the fullest. So as we conclude this episode, I do want to play a little game with you. This is a game I do like to play with doctors and therapists and coaches and experts. And it's short. It's really short, I promise. I'm going to just say a word, and it's going to be somewhat health related. Some of these have like very positive benefits. Some of these have very negative benefits. And I just want to get like your initial feedback. You don't have to, one word. It could be great. It could be awful. It could be, oh my God, never do that. It could be, that's amazing. It could be no comment, because some of these are a little like, I wouldn't say controversial, but please feel free to say no comment. And, off the record between you and I, if any of these come up that you don't even want me to put in the podcast, we will edit it out. Okay. But if it's something you don't like, just say no comment. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Cold plunge.
Pretty good.
Okay. Yoga.
Good for your brain.
Okay. Intermittent fasting.
Not good.
Okay. HGH.
Controversial.
Ice cream.
Delicious.
Red light therapy.
Not enough data, potentially helpful.
Okay. EMF radiation.
Same.
Okay. Blue light exposure.
Not good for sleep.
Yogurt.
Really good for the gut. Ice cream, potentially better.
Oh my God, that's life-changing. Soda.
Don't drink it.
Coffee.
Really good in the morning, really bad in the afternoon.
Okay. Psilocybin.
Very interesting. Some really fantastic data coming out. Not ready for prime time yet.
Okay. Alcohol.
1 drink per day for women, 2 drink per day for men. Be careful of the headlines.
Okay. Masturbation.
Fun.
Okay. Adderall.
Controversial, really helpful for some people, not to be taken lightly.
Okay. And last one, marijuana.
The data is really questionable. I'll elaborate ever so slightly. I have a couple of studies right now looking at CBD. There are a lot of claims being made specifically in the health and recovery space. There are 5 studies on muscle health and recovery in humans, and most of them are null, which means there was no benefit.
Interesting.
But I'm bullish, but we'll see.
Bullish on CBD. What about
CBD?
What about THC?
Yeah, THC is, we could go into this for a long period of time, but the amount of THC is really important. More tends to probably not be better for your health.
Yeah, and especially the brain.
Especially the brain.
Got it.
Yeah, not my area specifically with brain health, but it does seem that the data shows that the strains have more and more THC in them, and that could potentially be harmful.
Got it.
So be careful.
Awesome. Dr. Pojednic, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're super busy, and it was great having you on the podcast. It was really an honor. I'm glad that we were able to connect through Joe DeSena, CEO and founder of Spartan Race, going to be taking on that death race last week of June. Don't know when it starts, don't know when it ends, and that is extremely scary. To all those people that are listening on Apple, Spotify, Audible, Google Podcasts, you can head over to the website, lifecoachzach.com, if you want to connect. Don't forget to leave an honest review. We recommend 5 stars. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Zach.